Everybody say Wildcats, 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 Wildcats. It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings.
Football.
Marty's little girls and no other sucker made a banner that was a bad mother.
Don't cuss.
Not us.
It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings.
Welcome to the Married with Picks podcast, season 3, episode 6, week 6.
And as you know, I used to sit on the bench.
Waiting on you.
Food on the necessities of life.
It's like professional music over here.
Was like the fade out.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you ruined it. You couldn't just kind of flow through it. Next time, just kind of keep going through it. I'm going to slow it down a little bit, like get lower and lower. All right.
All right. So
I know you're off your game because you're all by yourself last week. Jeez, you did a good job.
Back with my sidekick, who I missed so much last week.
I woke up Saturday morning and I started to listen to it, but then I had to go get breakfast because I was very hungover. Because we went out to the bars late in Phoenix to watch the Eagles game. It was awesome, but you did a great job.
I thought I did okay. It's a little awkward, like not having the conversation, the back
about
and
business,
forth.
Man, it was short, sweet.
And I think
the picks.
the camera is a little high because I thought since I'm here by myself, I should probably look at the camera a little more. But I think it's too high, so we might have to look at adjusting that now that we can actually see what the camera sees.
Being the like self gratifying person I am, and this is going to surprise you, but I even thought you did a good job of mixing in a couple good shots at me last week.
I tried.
It was good.
Okay.
I was impressed.
Good.
I think the listeners were entertained.
All right. So moving on, week 6. A lot of home dogs this week. Did you notice that?
I did.
A lot of them. So, and first game is a home dog. So we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Atlanta Falcons. San Francisco is favored by 5.5. So last week, the Tampa Bay game was a little frustrating because they obviously dominated the game. I think they were 21-0 going into the fourth quarter, but they didn't really put the game away, and they let the Falcons score a couple touchdowns to ruin the cover on that one. But Falcons want to run the ball. Kyle Shanahan is kind of the king of running the ball. So I think he's going to be able to scheme around the one-dimensional offense of the Atlanta Falcons. So my pick is going to be the 49ers, and I feel pretty good about it.
All right. Well, listen, let's jump right in. Like San Francisco, to me, is turning into, even though they have a 3-2 record, which is not great. I mean, they're turning into one of the better teams in the NFC because what you're seeing
they're the top
here,
team in the division.
Okay. Yeah. So in maybe the best division, right?
What used to be.
Yeah, exactly. Because NFC East is looking strong now, right? But let me get back to this point because there's a couple points I want to make here because I really like this game. We're coming right out of the bat, and I'm telling you to take this game heavy. And I'm with you. Let's just get right to it. It's San Francisco. But I want to tell you why. Okay. San Francisco is one of the elite teams. They're kind of fitting into that NFC mode of who's not really paying the quarterback, and they have a lot of talent around the team because they're paying the other players, right? So you're not spending a lot of money in San Francisco at quarterback. You're not spending that much money in Philadelphia, and you are spending money in Dallas, but without Dak playing, that team is stepping up around Cooper Rush. And even though Cooper Rush might not be the more talented quarterback, he's managing the game. So, they're 4-1. So San Francisco is 3-2. We talk about ebb and flows of the season. They're 3-2. Atlanta is 2-3. If Atlanta was to win this game, now keep in mind, San Francisco is favored by 5.5. So they could win the game and not cover. So, that's the risk you take. But San Francisco is definitely going to win this game. Money line, probably all day money line here. If they lose this game, they'd be 3-3, and Atlanta would be 3-3 as well. And to me, they're two teams on the opposite side of the spectrum, like talent-wise, and what I expect. They're not going to be tied 6 games in. So San Francisco is definitely going to win. I will tell you this, that San Francisco is 8-2 against the spread in their last 10. Okay, so that's a very strong stat. But what I'm going to do is we talked, I've had a little special with this buck the trend, where I find like a really good trend and I think it's going to go the opposite. And Last week I wasn't there. I don't know if I did a buck to trend the week prior, so I'm going to make up for it. And I got 3 of them this week. Okay,
exciting.
So this is the first one. This is the buck to trend. Atlanta is 5-0.
Let me guess what the trend is.
Well, the trend is Atlanta is 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games.
Yep.
All right. And I'm going to say we're going to buck that trend with the San Francisco cover here. They win by at least 7. I really like the way that their defense plays, and I think they're going to give Mariota fits.
One other thing I will mention, this is San Francisco's second game on the East Coast, but they did, close to the East Coast, I guess. But they did stay out here for the week, so the travel back and forth thing is not a concern there. And they have done that in the past and done very well with that.
So we're both on the same page here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. One thing I didn't mention at the top there, this is our first week of bye weeks. So we do have 4 teams on bye week. I did not write them down, but it is the Raiders, the Lions, help me out. I can tell you in a second.
Wow, way to jump into it, not know the teams.
I thought I knew them, but
that's like
NFL. As soon as I see them, Titans and Texans. How could I forget the Titans?
All right, so Titans, Texans,
Raiders, Lions. So the next game is the New England Patriots at the Cleveland Browns. It opened with New England favored. Now it has shifted to Cleveland favored by 2.5. And maybe I printed this out last night. So if you have the screen up, maybe you can tell me if any of these has changed since then. But so I've kind of struggled with the Patriots ever since they've been without Brady. But last week, Belichick proved that he's still Belichick. He really handed it to the Lions. And my analysis on the podcast was spot on. But I think my pick was the Lions are taking the points, which was obviously not right. So Cleveland has been a bit of a sieve on the ground. Everybody's kind of running all over them. Last week, Austin Eckler did it, who he hadn't really gotten going much.
Wait, you ended up going against the Patriots last week?
Yeah.
I thought I heard you going for it.
I was worried about Bailey Zappi on the other side. I didn't think he was totally going to.
I was watching that game. It was a 1:00 game, right? So we were out at the bar.
That's why I said
Phoenix,
sometimes my analysis is spot on.
That must have been when I bailed on the podcast because I didn't have enough time to listen.
Pick was not right. So hopefully you can at least take your information out of what's said.
So do you try to make up for that?
Well, so my pick was going to be the Browns.
Right. Why?
But interestingly, 2 things. Number 1, Jacoby Brissett started in New England. So as a backup, obviously, but I'm sure that gives Belichick some advantage. And these teams met twice in recent history. They actually played last year where the Patriots won that game 45-7. That was with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback for Cleveland. And in 2009, they played, and that was with Baker and when Brady was
2019?
Yeah. What did I say?
2009?
I always do that. 2019, and that was Baker Mayfield for the Browns, and Brady was still a Patriot.
You always just forget about a whole decade when you're talking about 2019?
When you get to this point in life, it's easy to do that.
Okay.
So the Patriots won that game 27-13. So like I said, my initial pick was going to be the Browns. Just kind of still worried about the Patriots offense a little bit. But I definitely think it's going to be a run-heavy game from both aspects. Damian Harris did get hurt last week for the Patriots, so it will be Ramondre Stevenson. So if you have him in fantasy.
I like him finally getting, if he gets a line share of the carries. 20 carries. That guy's gonna
thought that he was the better back, and I actually drafted him in our league.
Well, Damian Harris is more consistent. He's the veteran. He's not going to put the ball on the ground. I think he was worried about Stevenson had some fumbles early in his career, but Bill Belichick's that's the kind of guy he's going to go. He's going to go with the guy that's not going to turn the ball over and he has confidence in. And Damian Harris is by no means a bad back. He's very productive, but
a little injury
Stevenson's a home run hitter.
So,
right?
Yeah, I think I'm shifting, and I think I'm going to be on the Patriots here.
Goddamn right. That's what I'm saying. Listen, that's what I'm saying. I can't believe you had the other side. I thought I must have turned off the podcast right after you were gushing about the Patriots, but absolutely, I was on board with the Patriots last week. I think it's the same situation here where I like Jacoby Brissett, but when you're going to put Jacoby Brissett against Bill Belichick, one of the great minds of the NFL, I think you're spot on there. You got to take New England. I mean, Mac Jones has been his ankle injury. He's been a limited participant. Do we know whether it's him
or okay?
No, he's been a limited participant, and they haven't announced whether he is going to be the quarterback. It's kind of like, I mean, it's up in the air. I think it's a game time decision, but Belichick, he keeps it close to his vest. But even if it's Bailey Zappi, I like their chances. I think he showed that he can move the ball effectively when he got to play a little bit last week.
But yeah, and it's definitely going to be a run heavy approach by both sides. So
I think with him being the quarterback, you're probably looking at like maybe 22 carries from Stevenson. Definitely in fantasy, like light him up, daily fantasies. Season fantasies. For fantasies.
All right. So we're both on the Patriots here then.
Running back. Yeah, absolutely. We're on 2 for 2.
All right. So next game is the New York Jets at the Green Bay Packers. It's at 7 in favor of the Packers. So Green Bay obviously last week played in London against the Giants. That game started with the Giants going down. And I was watching and I thought, that Giants pick is not looking so good right now. I actually left to take the kids to their soccer game. And by the time I checked the score, when I got there, the Giants were ahead. So, I mean, we say it every week, but Packers, Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams is a different beast. So I don't see them necessarily blowing anybody out at this point. And it doesn't necessarily feel good, just like last week didn't, but I think I got to take the points and go with the Jets.
Yeah, I just feel like, typically I like the Jets better than I like the Packers, but in this game, with the way I think it just matches up in the schedule, I'm going to take the Packers. I just think this is a home game where they, show that they should be talked about in the top class of the NFC. It's going to take Aaron Rodgers a little bit of time to get going with these receivers, but I think they're eventually going to get there. The Jets still have a lot to prove to me. I mean, they won by a large margin last week, but the game was close late. They just kind of got out of hand there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get
to the Jets are 3-2, right? They beat the Packers. I mean, it's a 7-point line. Like, they're not going to win this game. They're going to go 4-2. I don't think so.
Well, I'm not saying they win.
It's the Packers. I know. So, I mean, this is another easy money line. I think you go Green Bay if you do a survivor pick.
I mean, the analysis on this game could be totally the same thing as last week, and look what happened. So,
I like Green Bay. I think this is at least a 10-point game at the end of the day.
All right. Next game, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts division matchup here. I don't really know what to do with this game, and I kind of have been back and forth. The Colts obviously have not looked very well. Their offensive line is not good. Matt Ryan does not look good. Last week during the broadcast when they played that clunker of a game against Denver on Thursday night, they mentioned in the broadcast that they were kind of juggling the offensive line around, trying to get a better combination. It didn't look like it worked very well. So I don't know what else they can do there. Jags didn't play very well either. Last week they lost to the Texans in a very
that Thursday night game, Denver Indy?
Yeah.
So we watched the Denver Indy game and we watched the Washington Bears game, which was the worst game. They're both pretty bad.
Well, I don't know that I saw the entire. I feel like I saw more. Well, maybe it's just recent memory. But I feel like last night was worse just because the Bears got into the red zone twice, came away with 0 points. I mean, at least at the 2-minute warning, the score was 0-0. And the only reason the Washington won that game was because they got the turnover on the 5-yard line.
Yeah, and I don't understand why Justin, what's his name?
And on my teaser card, I had it a +5.5 on the Bears. And literally, they missed the 2-point conversion. They missed that field goal. I don't know how, that's still alive.
What's the Bears quarterback name? I'm drawing a blank.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, Justin Fields, he gets at the end of the second or the first half, he has one of the best runs that you've seen in the last 5 years, getting down to the 4-yard line, and you wonder where that is the rest of the game.
Well, I feel bad for him because I don't feel like it's his fault. I feel like it's the coaching staff isn't really putting him in the best position. They obviously weren't the ones that drafted him.
Games are bad.
So I don't think that they're really kind of maximizing his potential.
All right, back to the Colts and the Jags. Jags are
So
coming into Indy.
yeah, so the Jags didn't play very well last week either, but they obviously did beat the Colts in week 2, 24-0. That was in Jacksonville, where it's just kind of a thing. The Colts don't play well there, so they'll at least be back home. The line is -2 in favor of the Colts. So my initial take was going to be the Jags, but I could kind of see this just being the game where, Colts at home, they get it done somehow, some way, kind of like the game against the Chiefs.
Should look up a little more.
What are your thoughts?
Usually like this all the time. I don't have a whole lot of thoughts other than Matt Ryan's pretty much burned
This year's Ben
this year.
Roethlisberger.
Yeah, like I'm finally, I've been defending Matt Ryan, constantly in the last couple of podcasts, saying I refuse to think that he's done. I'm getting ready to jump ship, but on this one, I'm just going to play the recent trend of Jacksonville showing up against Indianapolis. And I think the numbers are better when these two match up. These numbers are better for Jacksonville when these two play, when they're playing in Jacksonville. And this one is in Indianapolis. But I think, the kid has struggled for Jacksonville the last couple of weeks. I think Doug will get him back on track. And I look for a big game out of Trevor Lawrence.
The kid that struggled.
Trevor Lawrence.
You mean the quarterback? All right. So, yeah. Next game is the Minnesota Vikings at the Miami Dolphins.
Look up a little more.
It is.
Look straight down in the paper the whole time. Just trying to help.
You're starting to irk me.
No, didn't you tell me to tell you that before?
No, I said last week I felt like I should try to look at the camera more since it was just me, but I feel like it's too high. And now I'm sitting on a pillow. I felt too high. I took the pillow out. I felt too low.
Down all the time.
So
try to just come up for air.
Let me take the pillow back out and see if that helps.
But the thing is, it doesn't have to be the same thing the whole time. You can look down, but come up for air a little bit. Look back over here, maybe.
All right, okay. So Vikings at Dolphins. It's -3.5 in favor of the Vikings. This is another home dog. So Tua has already been ruled out. On Wednesday, Miami said that Skylar Thompson, I think that's his name, was going to start. And if Bridgewater clears the protocol, he would be the backup. From what I heard today, it seemed like maybe that wasn't set in stone. There was still talk. Is it going to be Bridgewater? I don't know. But all I know is you can't trust Bridgewater one way or the other. My distaste for him is just growing.
His numbers are bad.
Because I had the Dolphins and then he leaves the game in the first quarter. So, I mean, I don't know. So I just kind of feel like you got to go with the Vikings. I'd rather get it at 3. It's at 3.5 right now.
I hate to say that I would going to put money on Skylar Thompson, but I kind of like the Dolphins here as.
Plus, I guess the other thing is in that game last week, I mean, he kind of kept him in it and then it got away from him in the fourth quarter and they literally gave up like 3 touchdowns. So it kind of felt like the defense just gave up at that point. So are they going to give up if, they've got Skylar Thompson and he throws a pick in the first quarter? Like,
I don't know. I'm going to take Miami at home though. This is a home dog where the numbers flipped from Dolphins -3 to Minnesota -3.5, especially if it's going to be over a field goal. I can't really tell you exactly how it's going to happen. It's probably going to be a low scoring, kind of tractor pull game. But I look for Skylar Thompson out of Kansas State. It's Kansas State Wildcats. I look for him to somehow be able to manage the game to get the job done.
I mean, we've seen
the turnovers. And Miami's defense, to your point, shows up and stays consistent for the whole game. They can get a good pass rush on Minnesota. And we know that once you start knocking Kirk Cousins around, he'll start throwing the ball up. That's when turnovers start happening. And you never know when you're down in Miami and you take a cold weather team. I know it's not too cold now up in Minnesota yet, but it's definitely a lot colder than it is in Miami, and they're going to wear down, especially towards the end of that game. So be careful if you'll take Minnesota. I don't love it, but I would take Miami, especially if it keeps going up over 3.
All right. Next game, Cincinnati Bengals at the New Orleans Saints. The Bengals are favored by 2. So we have another home dog. I took the Saints last week because I just felt like the line was putting me there. It was the right call, but that game was a bit of a shootout with Seattle. Apparently, Seattle's defense is a get-right spot for a lot of teams because the Saints really hadn't put up a lot of points, but that was a bit of a shootout last week. Saints defense didn't really play very well. But again, it's kind of the same defense as it has been in the last few years. So I don't know why they're not playing as well as they have. So I worry about the Bengals offensive line in this. The Saints also play a lot of cover 2 defense, which Burrow kind of struggles with, mainly because he just wants to throw it up to Jamar Chase, I think. T. Higgins was not playing last week. So he's questionable. So it would definitely worry me if he's not out there as well. I think the Bengals are the better team, but I could see the Saints taking this one the same way they did last week. But I'm torn. I don't really have a pick on this game. What do you think?
All right, I'm gonna make it very short and sweet. Maybe not too short, but sweet for this game. Okay. I know Bengals are road dog, and I will tend to lead to the home team when they're getting points. But a couple things I'm looking at here, especially when we talk about the ebbs and flows of the season. Again, I'll evoke that when we're looking at this game. Both of these teams, the New Orleans Saints and the Cincinnati Bengals, are 2-3. I look at Cincinnati as like an elite team. They're still trying to get it together. They had an amazing run last year. They looked a little disappointing this year, but I feel like they're just going to, first half of the season, maybe play 500 ball and then start taking off, and I expect them to be a playoff team. The New Orleans Saints, not so much. I don't expect much out of them at all. I think they are like a gimmick team with your boy Taysom Hill playing quarterback and scoring points. So as long as you can prepare for that, and Cincinnati has a good enough defense, I think that they can, limit those gimmicks. So I like the fact that I think that Cincinnati will go to 3-3. And the Saints will go down to 2-4. I don't see Cincinnati being 2-4. So I'll give you a couple stats here and then I'll shut up. The Bengals are 11-2 against the spread in the last 13 games. 11-2 against the spread in their last 13. Okay, that's powerful. Also, Bengals 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 versus the Saints. 5-1.
Well, that doesn't mean
I'll take the Bengals.
That doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
The 5-1 thing.
Do you like the Saints?
And just one other thing I thought of.
Who do you like?
Last year, when the Bengals played in those division games, and they did very well in them last year. This year, they haven't done so well. They lost last week to the Ravens. But
this isn't a division game.
I know it's not, but the game after the division games, if you let me finish,
so you
it
feel
makes
like
sense.
If that's a loss, then this is a win.
No, I feel like if they put it out there in the division game and didn't get it done, that this is a letdown spot for them. They're going to lose.
Cincinnati.
Yes.
Okay, great. This is a bet.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll give you 2 points too. I will give you 2 points.
What does that mean?
That's the line. I'm saying.
I know. So what are you giving me?
I'm giving you 2.
So you're giving me 4.
No.
You're giving me 2. It's already 2. That's 4.
I'm giving you 2. The line's 2.
I don't
Vegas
really know.
Is giving you 2.
If I want to bet on the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm talking myself into the Saints more and more. Fine. I'll bet you.
I almost don't want to bet you for the corny. Give me 2 and there's 2 and I'll have 4. But whatever.
All right. Next game. The Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. It was -3.5 in favor of the Ravens. It's up to -5.5. So another home dog here. Giants are obviously playing way over their pay grade. They're 4-1 on the season. I think you can attribute that like 99% to Brian Daboll. I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing it very well. I guess my question on this one, if the Giants are 4-1 and the Ravens are 3-2, why are the Ravens favored by 5.5? Like, what is the line based on? Is it based on like history of what these teams are supposed to be? Or is it based on like current records? Because it doesn't make sense to me.
It's based on what Vegas thinks going to happen. I don't expect me to explain this line, but I think it's
so
right.
Records don't factor into Vegas's determination.
I think the line's telling you to take the Ravens.
Well, I think it's too high. So doesn't that mean it's telling me to take the Giants?
If you think the line's too high, that means you're on the side of the Giants.
Yeah. I think it's too high.
I'm thinking that
I don't think they deserve to be favored by 5.5.
I agree.
Now, here's the number one thing.
Vegas knows something.
Right? Wink Martindale is the defensive coordinator of the Giants this year. He was the DC in Baltimore for the past 5 years. I think that works to the Giants' advantage.
G-Man 0-5 against the spread their last 5 against the AFC. Baltimore's 5-2 against the spread their last 7 against the New York Giants. Those trends are telling me to take Baltimore. They're the ones that I like. I like Baltimore here. I think that they've played a lot of close games, but at the end of the day, I think the Giants defense is still not that great, and that I look for a big game from Lamar. He's going to run all over these clouds.
All right. We're on different sides of that one. I'm not betting you.
Come on.
No, not betting you. Next game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's at -8 in favor of Tampa Bay. Another home dog here. Steelers obviously got blown out last week by the Bills. You have Todd Bowles as the coach in Tampa. He's obviously a defensive-minded coach, so I definitely think that he can scheme something up to deal with the rookie quarterback. Is it Kenny Pickett? I get confused because it's Kenny Pickett and is George Pickens. Yeah, that drives me crazy.
He's the receiver.
Yeah.
From Georgia.
So the only thing that worries me a little bit is, number one, Tomlin got embarrassed last week. Does that make him get the team up to not get embarrassed at home this week?
Yes.
I mean, it's certainly going to try, but can he do it? I don't know. And I worry about garbage time cover, like what happened last week with the Bucs and the Falcons. But I mean, are you going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yes. You should be worried about all that.
You can have them.
You should really be worried about that.
You're seriously going to take the Steelers?
The word is embarrassment, and they were playing against the best team in the NFL.
I always hear people give Tomlin a lot of respect, and I just don't see it. I really don't. I don't think he's that great of a coach. I think he walked into a situation where he had a Super Bowl winning team.
Okay, so when he has Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger,
the only thing I give him credit for,
they were studs.
The only thing I give him credit for was managing Antonio Brown.
It's not his fault. I think he's a good coach. I like him actually a lot.
I see him very much not adjust
last week is why you should be worried about this. And I'm going to tell you another thing, and I don't want to get all, soap opera here, but let's look at the facts with Tampa Bay, because they have not looked good this year, and Tom Brady's looking worse and worse. And I know he hasn't had the receivers, but last week he had the receivers. He didn't really have a big excuse. I know they've lost their center, right? Their all-world pro center, which is really causing fits up on the line. But let's really look at, when we talk about the soap opera here, that he has not looked the same. He's getting a little bit older, but clearly, everybody knows that he's having problems with Giselle, and as this matriculates, they're getting closer to divorce. It looks like.
But don't you think
you think that Tom is going to, wear that on his sleeve and play? He could be playing a little bit worse as we keep going. I'm just saying they could be. Tampa could look worse coming forward, because Tom's going to have in the next couple of weeks, the next month maybe, some major serious problems in his personal life. Now, whether he lets that get to his play or not, we'll have to see. But remember, he's 45 years old, and it's hard to kind of not think about those major things when you're talking about billions and millions of dollars split up between assets. Anyway, all right, this is my buck the trend.
I told you
game.
last week he's obsessed with the divorce of Tom Brady and Giselle.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I am not obsessed about that, but the Steelers is my buck the trend number 2. We're going to have 3 tonight total. The trend is that Pittsburgh's 1-4-1 against the spread in their last 6. So, I mean, it's not ultra tight. Okay. 1-4-1 is still, out of the last 6, a negative trend. We're going to buck that trend. And I think they're going to cover. I would look to even the public to keep betting Tampa Bay up. This line's at 8 right now. Would it open to 3.5, right? You said. Now it's 8. I think you could get it up to 10 by the time, this is Friday night. By the time Sunday rolls around, who knows? Tampa's a popular bet, and a lot of money goes on them. I think especially because Pittsburgh was embarrassed last week. Now they come home, and I think that they can limit the turnovers, Kenny Pickett can limit the interceptions.
But do you
They got
think
a shot to cover this spread.
so? Like Belichick versus the rookie was a thing. I kind of feel like Todd Bowles versus the rookie can be a thing too.
Listen, I think this is one of those games where everybody and their mom is on Tampa, and this is where you go Pittsburgh.
Well, I looked at the money
I'm trying
percentages.
to make a case, right, really for Pittsburgh. And how can you love them after they just got their ass whipped by Buffalo? But remember, Buffalo is, if you look at it logically, Buffalo's the best team in the league. And Tampa Bay might be the best team in the end in the NFC, but they're not right now. And they're going to struggle for a little bit.
And you can't let these easy games get the best
And you
of
see
you.
what happened last week, got burned with Atlanta. They were up 21-0 and cruising. And they just sat on it. And Atlanta came back, and they really should have lost that game. Well, I mean, who knows if they should have lost, but they should have gave that ball back to Atlanta deep into the fourth quarter with a shot to win. If it wasn't for that, ridiculous roughing the passer call, right, on Tom Brady, where they just kind of rolled him over and then they threw a flag. There was definitely
that's the right call according to the rule book.
So buck to trend number 2. Okay, this is probably the least strongest of the 3, but still I like it. We'll take Pittsburgh plus the 8 and climbing. You want a piece of that? How about 10? Give me 10.
No.
How many are you giving me?
I'm giving you 8. I'm giving you what Vegas is giving you.
Okay, so you're going to give me 8 plus the 8 that's on my paper, so I get 16. No. 8. All right, 8 it is. 8 it is. You're a good sport. Right. How do you put up with me?
Next game, Carolina Panthers at the Los Angeles Rams. It is at -10 in favor of the Rams. This to me is just kind of like a shit show game. Panthers haven't played well. Obviously, they fired Matt Rule this week. I guess that's the only thing. Like the fired coach sometimes sparks the team to do better the following week, although it didn't work last year when Urban Meyer got fired. So I give that a little less credit now. Baker Mayfield, I believe, he's doubtful. It most likely will be PJ Walker as quarterback. Panthers do have a decent defense. The Rams O-line is not good. Rams are 2-3 on the season. I know they are the reigning Super Bowl champs, but do they really deserve to be 10-point favorites at 2-3? So my gut would be like in this situation, you have to take the points, but I'm not taking the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I don't know if my buddy Aki is listening to this, but, shout out to Aki and his Carolina Panthers. He's been telling me how bad he wants Matt Rule to get fired for the last 2 years, pretty much. Hasn't liked him out of the gate, and he's a huge Carolina Panthers fan. I, on the other hand, was a big Temple guy. I liked him, and I thought he was strong at Baylor. When they got Matt Rule, I was really happy for him, and I was trying to pump Matt Rule up, but he was on the right side of that. Matt Rule goes down. Steve Wilks steps in as interim head coach, and I'm going to take let's tell you a little bit about Steve Wilks. He comes from the Ron Rivera coaching tree, right?
Yeah, we saw that last night.
Yeah, well, Ron Rivera is a decent coach. I mean, how you blame with Carson Wentz, but he's a defensive backs coach with Chicago and San Diego. San Diego is where he met up with Ron Rivera. So when Ron Rivera got to be the head coach of Carolina, and he brought Reds with him. That's up in Buffalo now. The head coach, they're all coming from the Eagles. That's where they all met up.
Reds.
What's his name? McDermott. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give Steve Wilks one shot to rally the troops. The Matt Rule gets fired. The team plays for the coach. I think this is the great spot because the Rams are just, looking awful. They're atrocious. So I'm going to give Carolina one more shot, take all these points. If they do not cover, we're going heavy against Steve Wilks and the Panthers the rest of the season. I'll tell you that right now, because Steve Wilks does not have a tremendously successful coaching record when he has been the head coach.
All right. So next game is the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. It's at -2.5 in favor of the Cardinals. So another home dog. This is a division game. Last 2 weeks, we've really seen how bad the Seattle defense is. So I kind of feel like this could be a get right spot for the Cardinals. Over the last 2 years, they have split the matchups, each team winning one. The higher scoring games have kind of taken place in Arizona versus in Seattle. And I don't know. I mean, maybe in this situation, you should take the points, but I just feel like it's a get right spot for Arizona. And I think they'll be able to score on the Seahawks defense, just like other teams have. So it doesn't necessarily feel right taking Arizona as a 2.5 point favorite on the road, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I like Seattle, but it's not a really strong play. I just think that they showed that they could score a lot of points. Arizona, I think, is struggling to really kind of get it together as a team. It definitely looks like they're really successful when
since
he's just
you were there.
Right.
What happens to the Eagles in the second half of that game?
Well, I feel like they just got away from the run and they weren't really trying to get crazy. There's a lot of wide receiver screens on both sides of the ball between Arizona on offense and Philly on offense, but specifically Philly was running a lot of screens. I feel like they got away from the run. So Arizona was just kind of like pinning their ears back, trying to rush the quarterback, and they caused a lot of problems, got in the way of Jalen Hurts. So it felt like they were kind of toying with them, but once they got deep into the fourth quarter and the game was like, it was like 9 minutes left and Philly got the ball deep in their territory and they just started running the ball and they really took over the game. Arizona still had a shot at the end, but clearly Kyler Murray
what happened there?
So it was obvious to me, and it was pretty funny because I was, happy to tell a lot of the Arizona fans as they came down the escalator out of the stadium what happened, because all of them seemed clueless to the fact that he totally screwed that game up. But it was third and long, or second and long, right?
I know, and he slid,
so
and it
he
was
came
a
and slid. He clearly started the slide before the first down marker,
and he thought he got the first down.
Yeah, it came up. Rushed the team to the line with about 20 seconds left and spiked the ball.
Making it fourth down.
Making it fourth down. So they had to kick the ball. So, I mean, they all want to, blame the kicker, but that was pretty stupid because you could have at least ran the ball.
Well, I thought
they should have quarterback sneak real quick and then got the first down, spiked it. Let's say you got about 13 seconds left with the ball at the 20. You still can take a couple shots at trying to score a touchdown. And
well,
win
you
the
could
game.
at least get them closer for the field goal too.
At least.
Yep. Somebody said that the whatever you call it at the stadium had said first down. So that might have been part of the problem. But
yeah, well, I didn't see that part. I know that was actually, I know the reporter out of Philadelphia who had said it, and it was.
But regardless, obviously the head coach and the quarterback should be aware.
I'm not really in a position to tell him, and I can't go back to say that they were waving him forward, like on the sideline, and that's what they thought. But he clearly got up right away and was like, as soon as he got up, he was going spike, spike, spike. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. The quarterback's got to know where he is.
Doesn't give you confidence in taking the Arizona Cardinals this week.
No,
but hey.
Exactly. Now you're in a hostile environment. Like literally the Philly fans took over that stadium and it was really loud in there. It was pretty funny. And Seattle is going to be really just as bad of a loud environment against Arizona. So I don't want to spend much time on this game.
I think
I like Seattle.
James Conner is at least questionable to play.
Yeah, he struggled.
Obviously, he can run on Seattle pretty good too. But okay.
And then another one, the Kenny Walker to third, for fantasy impact. Penny's out for the year.
There's a lot of good options now with the injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say, but like,
going to be a home run.
I've been waiting for Damian Harris to get injured so I can play Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah. All right. So next game is the game of the week. The Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. Buffalo Bills are favored by 2.5. So we have another home dog, not only another home dog, but we have Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, the almighty Kansas City Chiefs, as a home dog. Patrick Mahomes has never been a home dog. This will obviously be a rematch of the playoff game last year where the Bills lost because of the overtime coin flip rules. And I know Patrick Mahomes makes his magic, but he doesn't have any receivers. So cover Travis Kelce. Like, please, somebody cover Travis Kelce. And maybe that's easier said than done. I don't know. I don't play football, but it's kind of painful when he keeps catching all these touchdowns. I think the Bills will be able to do a better job at covering the tight ends, but that would be my approach. And I like the Bills, and I don't care if they're favored. I don't care if Patrick Mahomes is a home dog. I'm taking the Bills.
Listen, any given Sunday, right? And these are two of the best teams in the league. But I'm just going to leave it here. The Bills are better than they were last season. The Chiefs are worse than they are last season. for those reasons, I'm taking the Bills.
Okay. So we're on the same side of that one. All right. Next game, the second game of the week. The Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. We have a division battle for first place in the AFC North? NFC North.
The Eagles game just came up, and I realized you're wearing an Eagles shirt. What's going on there?
Can you answer my question first?
I'm sorry. What was
NFC?
NFC? East.
East, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the names of the divisions.
Yeah, I'm glad to help.
I know the teams in the divisions. I found this in my closet, which I put back together.
It's a Christmas present I got you.
And I don't think it was a Christmas present.
Yeah, it was Christmas or birthday.
When? Like 3 years? How many years ago?
Yeah. No. I got it for you like maybe last year.
Really? Why would you buy me this last year?
I think I found it like it was kind of like left over on the site. Probably got it on discount.
Oh, but I thought this was something you brought me back when you went to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It is. Yeah. Never mind. I don't know what I was thinking.
Okay. I hope that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I found it in my closet. It's like still in the plastic. Although I guess if you bought it at the Super Bowl, would it have been in plastic?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. This isn't
a
making
big
much
store
sense.
at the Super Bowl.
Okay, with everything in plastic bags. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we have Dallas has obviously been winning on defense, taking advantage of some bad offensive lines, the Bengals, the Rams. Philly obviously probably has the best offensive line that the Dallas Cowboys are going to face. Now, there were a couple, I got to ask you this, a couple guys left the game last week for the Eagles, offensive linemen. Is everybody healthy and ready to go this week?
Well, from what I understand, Jordan Mailata should play this week. And I think that's the key to this game. Because if he can, he's going to eat up DeMarcus Lawrence.
Who's the other guy? The guy that was like Carson Wentz's guy?
Lane Johnson. So either side is protected if Mailata's playing because Lane Johnson was probably the one that's going to get the workout. I think he's on the same side as DeMarcus Lawrence, but you never know if they switch him around. If they have both of those studs playing, the left and the right tackle position respectively, I don't see any way that, unless they attack the middle, Kelsey seemed to be fine. Unless they attack the middle with Parsons, those are the two guys you got to worry about, Lawrence and Parsons. If they can mark those guys and the offensive line is healthy, I don't see that there's any way. I'm sorry I'm jumping in front of for my pick, but there's no way that the Cowboys can even compete. And with all this Dak versus Cooper Rush, I don't see that I'm not a big Dak guy, but I think you got to pay the guy that you pay $40 million a year to play quarterback if he's healthy, right? Plus, I think he is the better quarterback. So I don't know what's going on with there. This just happens to be my buck to trend third game.
What's
of
the
week.
trend? Are the Eagles winning?
The Dallas Cowboys. Did you know this? The Dallas Cowboys are 6-0 against the spread. Their last 6 games on the road.
Okay.
Pretty strong stat, right?
Well, I guess, 6
road games, winning 6.
Cooper Rush has
not only
won
winning 6 games, but
all 4 of his starts. But
against the spread.
And he'd probably been the underdog, so that would be against the...
Yeah. So, line started at 1, now up to 6.5. I don't care. I see about 20-7 game, something like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. This game is going to be won or lost in the trenches. So it's definitely going to be the best defensive line that Philly has faced. It's going to be the best offensive line that Dallas has faced. Cooper Rush is not, he's kind of managing the games. Last week they won 22-10. It was field goals. So, if they get down, if the Eagles go up in the first half like they have in past games, is he going to be able to dig them out of a hole? I don't think so.
Can we just talk about for a second how lit Philly's going to be? With the Phillies winning tonight, right? And they just need one more game.
I don't even want to talk about the Phillies anymore. I'm so tired of the Phillies.
Sunday night, Eagles, Dallas. I can't wait to go to this game. It's going to be awesome.
I'm annoyed. Okay.
You want to go?
No. All right. So your pick is I'm gonna pick the Eagles again, but I'm a little bit bitter because I took them last week and I never take the Eagles and they didn't cover.
Yeah, that was a tough one. They should have covered.
So
I think it was, listen, I think the game last week was very much like they got up. They felt like they didn't really have to expose much of their playbook.
What
was and they just kept hitting the screens. Like they were not showing much.
Like, what was it? 17 points? Like 17 points is not getting up.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, it was weird. Like they continued to move the ball, and then they would just fizzle out right there on the scoring, field goal range, and punt the ball. But it felt very similar to.
And where was your kicker? Did you not have a kicker last week?
Yeah, we're not gonna have him this week either. Dicker, the kicker, is the Eagles kicker.
What's his name?
Dicker the kicker.
Dicker the kicker.
His last name is Dicker. He's named Dicker the kicker.
Huh.
Because there's a great Gus Johnson call when he was in college. He hit a big field goal. And Gus Johnson hit him with the Dicker the kicker wins the game. It was awesome. So that's what everybody's calling him. But anyway, I digress. This is an Eagles win.
Okay. I agree. It's at 6.5. It's a touchdown.
So anyway, what I was trying to say was that I feel very similar to coming into the Minnesota Vikings game earlier this year. It was a night game, Sunday night game, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, it was a Monday night game. Mm-hmm. And the week before, it was the opening week, and the Eagles just kind of like kept running the ball. They weren't really on defense, showing a lot of like pass rush. And last week was the same thing. They weren't really showing a lot on offense either. It was almost like they didn't want to put a lot on tape, and I feel like they're going to break the kitchen sink out, both offensively and defensively here. This might get out of control, but 20-7 is what I'm going to go with. But I don't see any way that the Cowboys can really stack up with the talent that the Eagles have. I mean, they have a nice team. They're 4-1, but they got really 2 studs on defense, and that's about it. The Eagles have a whole roster full of studs on defense.
All right. Well, somebody's going away with the loss, and it's either the Philadelphia Eagles or Cooper Rush.
There's going to be some hands in Cooper Rush's face, and we're going to see how he reacts.
All right. So final game of the week is the Monday night game, the Denver Broncos at the LA Chargers. I would like to know who came up with the schedule. Whoever it was obviously thought that the Broncos were going to be good because we get them in primetime again. Russell Wilson obviously hasn't lived up to expectations so far in Denver. Coaching's bad. They're without their best running back. Their defense is pretty good. Obviously, Staley on the other side has made some questionable in-game decisions at times, but I think the Chargers are clearly the better team. They are favored by 4.5 at this point. I would watch where the money goes. I always do on these primetime games, just like the Raiders last week. Only took them because all the money was on the Chiefs. It's not a big split right now, but I would keep an eye on where that goes. I worry a little bit about the Broncos defense being able to limit the Chargers, but I just think they're clearly the better team.
All right. Well, I mean, like I like the Mike Boone guy who's going to start now. You also have the Russell Wilson injury.
Melvin
Gordon is, ahead of him now, but I think that Mike Boone is going to take over. They're not really big on Melvin Gordon this year for some reason. I think he's put the ball down a couple of times.
The goal line repeatedly.
Yeah. So look for Mike Boone there, especially for your daily fantasies. You could probably get him in that 5,000 range. I haven't looked at it, but it's pretty cheap.
Well, this game would not be on the main slate.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. So anyway, Superchargers are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games. I'm going to take them.
I don't believe that.
4-1 against the spread, last 5.
Wow. Okay.
Should I say it again? No, I'm just kidding. I don't love this game. I mean, I'll take the Chargers. I'm mad at the Broncos. Screw the Broncos. But, try to get yourself in a position where you don't really have to, look at this game to make any meaningful impact on whether your week was successful. In other words, it's the Monday night game. Don't make it your makeup game. And these 2 teams are not playing very well right now. But I think you take the Chargers. Eckler's really looking good.
All right, I'm writing down our bets so I don't forget. It's the Bengals, Saints. Oh, that's right. And the Bucks, Steelers. All right, so that'll do it for us for week 6. I guess we'll both be back here next Friday, but that remains to be seen.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Because that will be game 3 of the NLCS if the Phillies make it, and I have tickets.
All right.
I'm bringing Jake and Brady.
Peace out.